Today on the Wealth Masterclass, I can guarantee you, you will be excited to know that as we look at pitfalls, mistakes people make with money, your eyes will be open. But please, you are not alone. If you've made mistake with money, you are not alone. You are not the first. There are people who have made terrible mistakes with money, some serious money mistakes, some serious money boogers some other people have made. Let us start. Number one, there used to be a search engine company called Excite. They were so big, they were the biggest in the world. Then Google showed up, and Google asked Excite to buy their site for $750,000. Google, the founders of Google, the founder of Google, Larry Page, begged Excite to buy their site for $750,000. Excite laughed at them and said, "Who will put such a money on you?" Today, Google has more than $130 billion in assets. It is part of the Alphabet company that is now worth close to $2 trillion. Excite and its company must be biting their finger. Number two, Daimler-Benz, the Mercedes-Benz company, biggest or among the biggest in the world, became interested in Chrysler in America. It sunk 20 billion. It sank so much money in Chrysler and lost $20 billion. You would think that the guys who run a place like Mercedes-Benz, could they make any financial mistake? Mistakes are to the magnitude of who you are and what investment you take the step to make. So if you've made financial mistakes, you're in good company. Number three, Kodak. Kodak was the first digital camera as far back as 1977. When Kodak showed up, so did Polaroid. The camera showed up, and Kodak was making unbelievable money. Nobody knew how to make digitals like Kodak. But they became so rested in their capacity, in their achievement. They did not do further research, make better what they had. And they were the first to file a patent for the first digital camera in 1977. But they did not make further research. Other cameras came, became digitalized, and overtook them, and Kodak became history. They've tried to make a comeback, but could never really come back. There's a company called News Corp. They used to own one of the first email addresses many people had. In fact, maybe a few of the people on the platform today would remember MySpace. And MySpace was the email address system you could have. But MySpace did not change. And they were also the place you could go for social media, to be able to search things, to be able to send information to one another. They also did not adjust. Facebook showed up, and while MySpace was still on the rise in 2005, News Corp bought it, paying $580 million for the social media site. But they did not do anything. They did not develop it. MySpace at 2008 became so big it was worth $12 billion. But they rested. A young boy came out of Stanford University, never even finishing, created Facebook, bypassed MySpace, and took it to the public, sold it on the New York stock market. Social media called Facebook became worth about $400 billion. MySpace, which in 2008 was worth $12 billion, was sold for $35 million. It had died. Just that amount to keep people who are old customers who didn't want to shift. What shall we say? Many of you in the United Kingdom will remember adverts, or you remember corner places where they had what was known as Blockbuster Video. I still remember their advert. My head is funny. It records any advert I like. Blockbuster Video, Blockbuster Video. If you wanted to watch any film, Blockbuster were the ones whom film companies licensed their movie store to be able to rent it out. So you went and rented these massive VHS tapes from Blockbuster. Suddenly, Netflix showed up on the horizon. Blockbuster did not adjust. Netflix took over. Netflix knocked them out. And actually, when Netflix showed up, they went to Blockbuster. Why don't you come on our system so that through us, your film can be seen all around the world? Netflix proposed that it will handle Blockbuster online, but Blockbuster could still have installed videos. And the chairperson of Netflix said they just laughed us out of their office. And today, Blockbuster no longer exists. Netflix, on the other hand, keeps exploding. Mistakes also are not only in the money making, they are also even in the process. Can you ever imagine that a company like NASA, in America's aerospace agency, made mistake in calculation? I need to read that to you. In 1999, NASA designed something to go to Mars and study Mars. They spent so much money, $125 million, to make the craft. However, when they made the craft, two groups of people worked on it. One group loaded data into it using English measurements, while another one used metric system. The machine got confused, malfunctioned, and $125 million was lost in space. You probably heard their oats before, Quaker Oats. Quaker Oats was started by Christians who left Europe, Britain to be precise, to go and live in America, and they lived as a community to practice their faith. They were laughed at because whenever the power of God hit their church, they quaked. In case you don't know the meaning of Quaker Oats, the power of God will hit their service and they'll be quaking. They'll be under the influence of the power of God. And so to be able to just live as a community, God gave them ideas for farming, and they farmed large oats farms and other things and produced. They became, and the thing became a big business, billion-dollar business in modern times. Then they now found that they didn't have a drink they could sell. So they bought Snapple. Some of you have had Snapple before. Couldn't manage it well because it's not their lane. You're going to hear it in our teaching later. You're going to learn how to stay in your lane. And because it was not their lane and they had dabbled into another person's lane, they lost so much money. The drink they bought for $1.7 billion, Quaker sold Snapple for $300 million to another company. And the same company they sold it to repackaged it, and 3 years later sold it for $1.4 billion. 1.4. They lost so much money. People who bought it and repackaged made so much money because that's their area of strength. I can share a little more for you. Let me look for people, not just companies, so that comes down to you as an individual. Bill Gates. There was a time when the rival company, Apple, was having serious financial crisis in 1997. Apple was at its low point. Bill Gates made an investment into Apple, put $150 million there as an investment. But it gave Apple the chance to rebound, overtake Microsoft massively. So don't fuel your competitors in your attempt to show power. You might just fuel your competitors with your anger, with what you consider an investment when you didn't really invest. What shall we say of Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon? He admitted to the world that he had lost several billions through trial and error businesses, thinking that Amazon should be in every place. Oprah Winfrey made ambitious blunders after she had been for long on TV through platforms that were provided for her. She started her own, called OWN, OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network. But the early days of Oprah Winfrey Network were terrible because all the programs they produced were flops. And Oprah admitted that the project was a flop. And she said, had I known that it was this difficult, I might have done something else. However, it turned around after she had lost $330 million and almost suffered a nervous breakdown. I mean, some of us will lose 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds, 3,000 pounds, and you can't sleep. She lost $330 million and almost suffered a nervous breakdown, I beg your pardon. But in a typical Oprah Winfrey fashion, she rebounded, rewrote scripts, and the scripts became a major win. What shall we say of the father of shares and stocks and investments? Warren Buffett made a $200 billion misfire. He admired somebody's company and trusted that that company will do well and encouraged people to invest there. And he too invested there, bought controlling shares in the company, only to make massive, uncommon losses. Richard Branson, you remember the Virgin name. If you read his book Unusually Candid, you will see that he had the knack for starting things. And at a point, he branched everywhere. Virgin Cola, Virgin Radio, Virgin Airlines, Virgin, I don't know what they call their gym. They had a name for their gym. Virgin this, Virgin that. And the brand eventually found out that Virgin Cola was not a good competitor for Coca-Cola, Pepsi Cola. Those guys knew their patch. They knew how to handle it. And Virgin Cola only reached 0.5% of the market share and could not survive and had to die a quiet death, which according to Richard Branson, he saw it as a success that he knew when to shut down. I also remember the fact that he used to be the major shareholder in Virgin that flew to the country of Nigeria, but when he saw that, hey, the level of bribery the people wanted, he could not continue. He quickly sold his share and moved out. And Virgin Nigeria died, although there's still Virgin Global that flies into Nigeria. Your taste too, your appetite can put you in trouble. L'Oreal, whatever way you women call L'Oreal. I think let me say it the French way. Is it L'Oreal or L'Oreal? French people are very funny. They put their two gums together. L'Oreal. Okay, L'Oreal, the founder, made the company lose $1.4 billion to a society photographer who was 25 years younger than her. Obviously, in whatever tryst they were involved in, she paid or gave him a lot of money. Her family fought him so hard and portrayed him as a gigolo who took advantage of their matriarch. In 2015, this guy was convicted of abuse and money laundering, was ordered to pay back $173 million out of $1.4 billion. Well, she left $40 billion for her family, so they have enough to leave those chicken change to the guy. Jesus, man, that's a lot of chicken change. One of the greatest investment prediction men on earth is George Soros. That guy in one deal made almost $1 billion when he predicted the fall of the British pounds. Therefore, being that good, everybody thought when Soros says it comes to pass. So Soros said that a company called Quantum Partners will make so much money, and people threw money there. He also put money there. And the fund which he had promoted on behalf of some people posted losses and fell well behind its competitors. I have shared so much of other people's failure. One of the teachings we're going to see later is all the OPs. One of the OPs of finance, write it down, is OPF. You must learn from OPF, other people's failures. What shall we say? One of the biggest financial blunders was Citibank, who overpaid their cashier. Wanted to type 8 million. They typed 890 something million. Citibank fought the people who cashed the money for a long time and could only recover $390 million. They ran to the courts and said the court should throw a freeze on people's account until they win to get the $510 million remaining. The bank refused. Samsung, you know them, the telephone, the TV. A staff wanted to post the number of shares they have and how much the shares is. She posted too many shares to their own staff, and within half an hour their staff, quickly seeing the number of shares given to them and the value of the shares, sold all the shares for $187 million before Samsung could recover and say no, the value of the share is not that amount. But by that time they've made mistake. Alitalia, my favorite airline when I used to live in Africa, to come to Europe, because Alitalia and KLM were part of a particular discount for pastors or missionaries that gave us 40%. So every year my one flight out of Africa to come on holiday used to be with Alitalia or KLM. A staff at Alitalia wanting to enter the cost of business ticket from Toronto to Cyprus, instead of entering $2,558, entered $33. Many people snapped the ticket quickly, paid. Contract is contract. The company lost so much money.